Well, let's now turn to the race for EV adoption. A lack of charging infrastructure has been one of the main obstacles. This, according to a study from San Jose State University. General Motors hoping to boost charger availability by leveraging its dealer network to choose charging locations in their communities and subsidizing the deployment cost. Joining us to explain is Hassani, General Motors Vice President EV Ecosystem. Good to have you on today. I'm going to start with a stat I know GM always likes to mention, which is that 90% of Americans are within 10 miles of a GM dealership. So you've got that in place. Now you're allowing or actually offering up these charging stations to dealers to deploy. To what extent is that likely to accelerate EV adoption?
Well, Akiko, great to be with you. And one of GM's visions, ambitions is to have everybody in an EV, not just to see EV in the markets where we're currently seeing a lot of adoption. And that means in the heartland of the country, in the middle of the country, in ex-urban and rural communities, as well as communities that are currently underserved by EV infrastructure. So for us, getting 40,000 chargers deployed across the US and Canada in those communities, those thousands of communities that don't have a single charger there today, is hugely consequential in our view for accelerating EV adoption.
So Hoss, talk about the decision to have them deployed in the community versus at the actual GM dealers themselves.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's obvious and predictable that we would deploy them at dealerships. In fact, our dealerships are installing EV infrastructure on their properties as a condition of selling and servicing our EVs. But we thought the opportunity was to go farther than that, and not just to get charging more accessible, but also to start supporting local businesses, small businesses, communities, popular community destinations, and so forth. Since we announced the program last year, we had a number of businesses reach out to us and say, hey, I want to be a host for one of these locations. And we think bringing everybody in, which is not just the driver of the vehicle, but letting the communities participate, that is something that's very core to General Motors' identity and fabric in this community and in this economy. And we just think it makes a lot of sense.
Hass, a majority of these being deployed are level 2 chargers. And while it's on the faster end, we're still talking about, roughly 3 hours to get to 80% charge. I mean, what do you think is the tipping point for those who are kind of on the edge saying, well, should I get an EV or not? That's still a long time to charge up if you don't have a charging system at home.
For sure. And today we are seeing that 80 to 90% of charging is happening at home and a little bit at the workplace. DC fast charging makes up about 15 to 20% of the infrastructure. That's where you see those really quick top ups, half an hour to 80% and so forth. But 80% of the charging infrastructure in the US and Canada today is that level 2 charging. And it serves a different use case. When you think about locations that people hang out at and spend a lot of time at, a couple hours at a library, at campus, at school, at an employer, and so forth, that's really where level 2 charging makes sense. It's more affordable to charge on level 2 charging. And in fact, a lot of level 2 chargers across the continent are in fact free. And so we see level 2 charging really complementary to the investments that we're also making in DC fast charging as part of our $750 million commitment to expand EV infrastructure across North America.
And what sort of headwinds could you also be looking at as you try and expand this?
I really think the only headwinds are our own ambition, frankly. And what we're doing here, we just, the immediately preceding segment talking about, continued challenges with supply chain and so forth. We've, of course, partnered with companies, and we've got a good view here that those 40,000 chargers that we're looking to deploy, we will deploy in the time frame that we're looking to do it. One of the other advantages of level 2 charging infrastructure versus DC fast charging, you require less upgrades and utilities and so forth. It's much quicker to install. In fact, we've had our first installations through this program in Wisconsin and in Michigan, and are looking to build on that with hundreds and thousands more installations in the months ahead.
Hass, how much of this is about trying to get drivers to warm up to the GM EV brand? I mean, we heard from your president, Mark Bruce, several weeks ago, saying that, GM's actually serviced about 11,000 Teslas. And while you've been open to that, there's got to be a bit of a wooing game that's happening, right?
Well, without a doubt, listen, I mean, up until now with gasoline-powered vehicles, it's always been about brand reputation and the product itself that has made, really inform people's decisions which vehicle they were going to purchase. When you get into electric vehicles, that is, of course, there having stellar product with excellent, range, reliability, and features and amenities, and the brand's reputation really matters. But one thing that is fundamentally different about an EV is the fact that charging is, in most cases, a daily ritual for folks at home, whether they're plugging it in overnight like they do their phone, whether they're going on a road trip, or that is an experience that they're going to be having much more frequently than a gas fill up in a very good way. And for us, we know that General Motors is absolutely going to lead in that charging experience that people are going to have every single day. And that's going to be hugely consequential to the decision of which EV people want to choose. And so combine that with the exceptional vehicles that we're going to have, electric vehicles in every category from Equinox up to Celestiq, and that world-class charging experience powered by the app, powered by the in-vehicle experience, we know that that is going to catapult General Motors to the leadership category in EVs.
We know more charging stations certainly sweetens the deal for people on the fence thinking about EVs. Hassani, General Motors Vice President, EV Ecosystem, thank you so much for joining us this morning.